There is a fundamental tension in wind farm financial models right now. We're watching the perceived safety of long-dated liabilities just collide head-on with the structural reality of a rapidly approaching maturity wall. We are briefing you today on a massive hidden decommissioning deficit. For 2 decades, the mathematics of discounting bred a culture of what we call rational indifference. It masked a systemic exposure that the broader market and you, as an active participant, must now confront.
Understood. And the danger here isn't simple negligence. I mean, the reality is that the math actively discouraged scrutiny. A terminal obligation discounted over 25 years looked like, well, mathematical noise. No one argued about it at financial closes because getting it wrong simply didn't change the initial investment decision.
Looking at the mechanics of the trade, let's walk through an illustrative example to see how this actually unravels. Take a hypothetical simplified model. At project inception, you have a 50,000 euro per megawatt removal obligation. If you discount that at 8% over 25 years, the present value is roughly 7,000 euros. Against 150,000 euros in annual revenue, it's just economically negligible. But how violent is the reversal when you compress that discount horizon to just 5 years?
It's a completely different reality. In this illustrative scenario, let's say the turbines are now 20 years old. Their availability drops, maintenance costs rise, and that annual revenue compresses to, say, 110,000 euros. Meanwhile, the nominal removal cost isn't 50,000 euros anymore, it hits 250,000 euros per megawatt. Suddenly, the present value of that imminent liability spikes to around 170,000 euros.
Wait, so to put that in perspective for you listening, that liability just consumed well over a full year of the asset's remaining heavily compressed cash flow.
Precisely. Basically, that tiny line item everyone ignored 20 years ago just woke up, and it is hungry. And right now, it is preparing to eat cash flows across the entire aging fleet.
Right, and the standard defense mechanism the market relies on to prevent this is the illusion of CPI escalation. Operators point to a provision that has grown annually with consumer inflation, assuming that protects the balance sheet. But if CPI isn't actually protecting these balance sheets, what are they benchmarking against?
That is the structural fault line. Escalating a decommissioning provision by consumer inflation is fundamentally flawed because the actual drivers of this specific risk move entirely independently of CPI. We're talking about heavy lift crane day rates, specialist demolition labor.
And landfill tipping fees for composite waste, right?
Exactly. Trying to index heavy marine logistics to the consumer price of bread or a pair of jeans is a recipe for disaster.
So if CPI averages 2%, but these specific logistical costs grow at 4%, you aren't just slightly off. You are creating a massive compounding error.
You are. You're taking a fundamentally incorrect base number, an estimate from 2 decades ago based on outdated scopes like shallow foundation removal or cheap landfilling, and merely inflating it. It gives a completely false signal of financial adequacy. The balance on the sheet increases, but its actual purchasing power to clear the site decreases.
Which brings us to a severe cross-stakeholder information gap. Early sponsors, original lenders, and auditors had absolutely zero commercial incentive to interrogate a mathematically immaterial number 20 years ago. It was entirely rational to accept a low-end estimate and just move on.
But that early rational indifference has poisoned the well. Today's secondary market investors and successor lenders are inheriting profoundly mispriced liabilities. They are acquiring assets and refinancing repowering projects while operating entirely blind.
Because there is no empirical industry-wide benchmark data to test their real exposure.
None. They are simply relying on those original compounded errors. The cost that was immaterial at inception is asserting its materiality right now, retrospectively, across every jurisdiction.
The ultimate implication here is severe. The market is hurtling toward a massive systemic repricing of decommissioning risk. As this first-generation fleet reaches end of life, we are going to see sharp net asset value adjustments, aggressively tightening financing terms, and severe funding shortfalls for operators.
Especially operators who already distributed their cash flows years ago. The resources that would have corrected the shortfall have already been consumed.
So here is the definitive, uncompromising reality and the critical variable you must watch next. The market will either proactively secure independent empirical cost data to finally correct these provisions, or it will wait for a wave of stranded obligations to trigger an abrupt, chaotic market correction. And it leaves you with a lingering question we haven't even priced in yet. When the music stops, the cash flows are gone, and these operators face insolvency. Who actually foots the bill for tearing down these massive steel towers? Because history suggests it might just be the local taxpayer left holding the bag.